It started doing the countdown again on me. How about that?
I
Welcome,
saw that.
everyone. Happy to have you here on a lovely day in January. I'm coming in from the suburbs of Philadelphia, and we have beautiful weather today. And Greg is coming in from New Jersey, and you probably have about the same weather, huh?
Yep,
All right.
pretty much sunny and cold.
So,
Yep,
yep, sunny and cold, but at least it's sunny and we don't have snow. So,
that's true.
thank you everyone for joining us today. We are going to invite folks to come up at the very end to ask questions, as Greg is an experienced recruiter. So, I'm going to introduce myself first, and then I'm going to turn it over to Greg. So, Lynne Williams, I'm out of the suburbs of Philadelphia, and I wear a couple different hats. Hat number one is I write resumes, LinkedIn profiles, LinkedIn company pages, and focus on keywords. Then I also am the executive director of a 501c3 nonprofit called Great Careers Network. And what we do is we run about 18 to 25 events a month that are on career education as well as networking. So, career education could be for a job seeker, a client seeker, aka an entrepreneur, solopreneur, small business, or somebody who is employed and wants to advance in their career. So, it's basically all kinds of career education tips for career transition and career management. Most of what we do is probably on Zoom. Since I just now got some new chairs in my office, we're actually going to start doing some in-person networking meetings starting next week. So I'm very excited about that. We had some generous donors from our Giving Tuesday campaign who made the chairs happen. So I want to turn it over to Greg now so he can introduce himself. And I'm going to put the links to the Great Careers Network events. And I'm going to put the other co-promotion, which is the Thought Leadership Branding Club. I'm going to put that link in the chat so you can check out their events. So, Greg, tell us where you're from. You know, maybe you weren't from New Jersey originally, but you're there now. And how long have you been a recruiter?
Oh no, I'm a Jersey boy, born and bred. Grew up in Gloucester County, went to Rutgers in New Brunswick, lived up there for a little bit, moved back down and settled in Burlington County, and now I'm the vice president for direct hire for Emerson Group. I've been a recruiter for coming up on 19 years
Wow.
this year. I think it'll be September, I think, is when I started. I started in healthcare recruitment, working for a company called General Healthcare Resources, doing a lot of work with long-term care facilities, hospitals, some rehab facilities, some hospice, working on the clinical side. Did that for about 4.5 years and then joined Emerson Group I just had my 14th year anniversary on January 3rd.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started doing more direct hire recruitment. And Emerson Group has been around for, I think they're coming up on 55 years. It's definitely over 50.
Long time.
Yes.
So what does Emerson Group do? Tell me what they specialize in. I know you might get different clients and various things, but is there a focus area?
Sure. So the focus really is we like to work with mission-driven organizations. Now, sometimes you hear the word mission-driven and you automatically think nonprofit, and we certainly do a lot of that. We're looking to expand our reach in nonprofit because we found that our core values and their core values tend to align very well. But there's also plenty of for-profit industries and companies within the tri-state area, which is really our geographic footprint, Jersey, PA, Delaware. That have a set of core values and have a mission, even though they all want to make a profit. Those are the companies we like to work with. It really doesn't matter industry. It really doesn't matter size, although we tend to find this more small to mid-size is our sweet spot. But if you treat your people well and you try to do things the right way, that's what we do. And so that's who we like to work with.
Awesome. So because I write resumes, all right. And there's a lot of job seekers out there who are either going to be watching live or they're going to watch after the fact, either on my LinkedIn Live or
Yep.
on our YouTube stream, they always want to know from a recruiter about their resume.
Mhm.
So, what kind of advice do you have for job seekers for crafting an effective resume that stands out?
The best advice I always give is to treat it like a commercial for you. Like the resume will not get you the job. The resume will get you the interview. You're going to get the
Yes.
job yourself when you're face to face. So you want to craft it in a way that's going to be eye catching and engaging, like all good commercials are. So the formatting is key. It shouldn't look like a high school term paper. I'm not a huge fan of AI, but I will say ChatGPT is very good in formatting resumes and making sure the spelling looks good and grammar's right. And then after that, you really want to put as many things that tell the organization why you are good at your job and could be good at the job they're hiring for, not what the job is. The biggest mistake I see people make on their resumes is, let's say, for example, they're an HR generalist. Their last job, they'll put HR generalist, the company, the years they worked there, and then they'll basically write a bunch of bullets that explain what an HR generalist is. Everybody knows what an HR generalist is if they're hiring for one. They want to know why you are a good HR generalist. So anything you can quantify, they love numbers, they love percentages, any projects that you led, anything that makes you
Amen.
stand out. Yes, that's what's going to make the resume good. And don't worry so much about length because everything is really digital now. My own personal rule of thumb, and it's just something for me, I don't know if everybody else would agree, is I don't care how many pages it is, as long as the last page has at least a quarter of it filled up with information. If it's just a couple of lines, it kind of looks messy. Do what you can to get that back onto the top page. But if it's a quarter or more full with text, don't worry about how many pages it is.
I am not a fan of a one-page resume unless you're 14 years old and have no experience.
Really,
So,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
if you
I'm
have
just
10
not.
plus
I
years of
don't.
experience, I want to know more about you than what's going to fit on one page. Right.
Yes, I agree. I'm a big fan of a two-page resume,
Mhm.
but I will go as far as a three-page resume
Mhm.
for somebody who's senior level executive.
Sure.
We're going to figure out how to cut and trim in some way, shape, or form to keep it to that 3 pages or less. But I just spent an awful lot of time updating my master resume,
Mhm.
and I updated the majority of my LinkedIn profile. My master resume was 9 pages. But of course, I'm not going to give that,
Right.
out. If I was a job seeker, I'd take it down to 3,
Mhm.
but at least it helped me get it in a Word document where I could
Yeah.
copy and paste the information, into my LinkedIn because I lost everything in my life to fire 20
Oh,
years
no.
ago. So it was kind of hard coming up with some information that I was like, oh, I got to pull
Yeah.
this out of left field here. But I love the fact that you said you need metrics. You
Mhm.
need to tell a company how you help them save money, save time, made money, improve processes, etc.
Yep. Yep.
So let's switch to LinkedIn. Okay.
Okay.
Um, do you view LinkedIn profiles of
Oh,
everybody?
all the time. I live on LinkedIn as a recruiter. It's my number one social platform as far as my presence and my network and my connections. I'm there all the time. I recommend anybody who does not have a LinkedIn platform to use it. I actually had a conversation, self plug here. I also, in my spare time, I'm an author. I have a book called The Recruiter that's out. It's a thriller for people who like fiction. And I was talking to somebody about that and mentioned that LinkedIn was my big platform, and to try to promote a book on LinkedIn is tricky because no one really knows how to use it. And he said he had a friend who said LinkedIn is for people where they go who don't want to talk to anybody. And it's just, unfortunately, a lot of people view it that way. They're like, I know I need to have a LinkedIn because everybody says it, but they don't know how to use it. And I always tell people, think of LinkedIn as your resume if you were telling people what you do for a living at a bar or at a restaurant. It's more casual, but it still gets all the important information out. You
Yeah.
should absolutely have a picture, and it shouldn't be a cropped picture of you and your prom date. It should be something that's semi-professional against a semi-professional backdrop. You don't have
Yes.
to pay for it, but have somebody set up and take a picture of you nicely. And the biggest thing I look for in LinkedIn, I don't really look for connections. I don't look for, you know, a lot of the flashier stuff. I look for, does it look like you put time into making it look good? Because not everybody knows how to use it or is comfortable, and that's fine. But I want to know that if it's something that you know you're supposed to have, which most professionals should, that you put the time in to make it look right, because that tells me as an employer or as a recruiter, you're going to put the time into other things that are supposed to look right in your job.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I run lots of LinkedIn workshops through the Great Careers Network, and I speak for a lot of groups, where I do LinkedIn presentations and score Silicon Valley, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Jacksonville, Florida, etc. But also in the Thought Leadership Branding Club, I have colleagues who do LinkedIn workshops and trainings and whatnot. So, tap into those resources and learn from others. You have to hear tips from a bunch of different people, and then you decide what resonates with you, what's right for you, to help you tell your story. So, there's lots of different techniques. There's no one right way, so to speak.
Correct.
So
it's just got to look good.
And even
got to look like you put time
and
into it.
even at the Great Careers Network, I invite, colleagues. I don't call them competitors. I call them colleagues, to come and talk about resumes and LinkedIn profiles and whatnot, because we all learn from each other, and I might pick up a tip or two from somebody, or they might pick one up from me. And it's like we evolve, as practitioners and career coaches. And so it's like all my skills on my LinkedIn profile, I didn't know it was a database like eons ago, and I've got to up all my LinkedIn skills, because I have words in there that do not exist in the database. So anyway, that's my next thing. So what are you seeing out there, when you look at people's LinkedIn profiles? Do you like what you see in general, or do you think, oh, some improvements needed?
Generally speaking, I like what I see. It's rare that I'll run across if it's not like somebody who looks like they clearly know what they're doing on LinkedIn and have all the boxes are checked and everything looks really nice. Like if it's somebody who looks like they went onto LinkedIn just because someone told them they have to have LinkedIn, they usually have, double-digit followers or something like that. You clearly don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but the picture's there, the job history is there. It's sort of their resume, like I said, but minus a lot of the stuffiness. Or I'll see somebody that has a LinkedIn profile with literally their job title and their company, no profile picture, no nothing. And that's somebody clearly who was told they needed it, but doesn't know how to do it. And those people I'll usually, when I talk to them, if I get their resume and I look at their LinkedIn, I'm like, listen, you really want to beef this up. Just look at what I have on mine and make it match yours. Put your information in, but make it look the same with all your data and all your info. And those people usually do that. It's rare I run across one that looks just botched, where it looks sloppy. The biggest flaw you can make on LinkedIn is to have multiple profiles, because then people wonder, who are you for real? Or are you trying to fool somebody?
Do you know how to use technology?
Do you know how to use technology? And does your LinkedIn profile not match your resume? Your work history, the dates, the companies, they all need to line up. If it's on your resume, it needs to be the same on LinkedIn.
Detail.
Don't leave one out of LinkedIn because you think it's not important. Because then again, you're giving an employer who's already going to be skeptical. Most employers, when they see something that they think is a red flag, they go to worst case scenario. They don't tend to give the benefit of the doubt, because it's a risk reward thing and they're trying to be safe. And if they see something that's a red flag where this doesn't match this for the same person, they're going to go worst case scenario. They're a liar. They're trying to scam me, whatever it might be. Don't even put the thought in their head.
Yep. So you kind of already alluded to my next question. I don't know if you want to add anything on, but it's like, what role does personal branding play in the hiring process, and how can candidates enhance their online presence? Is there anything else you want to add that you already haven't said? Because I know you did cover some points in there that relate to the personal branding.
No, just make sure that anything that you have publicly available online about you is something that you would not mind an employer seeing. And there's lots of companies that will do sort of that screening for you. We used to partner with one, the names escape me right now, but they're all over Citizens Bank Park for the Phillies. And they go through your social media history, everything that's available online, and they flag what could potentially be a problem. So I tell everybody, it's not a bad idea just to Google yourself every now and then, because you'll also sometimes, if you have a fairly common name, you'll have people pop up that have done some pretty bad things that were not you. And it's good just to know that that's out there. So, should somebody bring it up. But yeah, any social media that you have, anything, just make sure that if it's publicly available, whatever you have posted is something you're okay sharing with an employer.
So do you have LinkedIn Recruiter or LinkedIn Recruiter Lite as the platform where you're searching for people?
Yep. We use Recruiter Lite. We found that that's all we really need out of it. Maybe one day we'll move it up. But for right now, that's been working well for us.
Okay, great. So when you're looking at resumes, when you're looking at LinkedIn profiles, what's your take on people using AI? Like, can you tell when they're using AI or not? Like, give me some AI discussion and insights from your perspective.
Sure. You can tell when they're using AI if it looks similar to a lot of other resumes that you're seeing, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of AI in its current form. It still makes way too many mistakes for my taste. There's some other things about it I just don't like on sort of a moral level, but I also understand it's here and it's not going anywhere and we need to utilize it. And so it's about utilizing it the right way. I think it's great to proofread. I think it's great to format. That's the biggest thing with resumes. I find a lot of people don't know how to do. And I would advise using AI for that versus what I have seen before ChatGPT was on the scene, where you would see people would take a template from like Microsoft Word, which has your resume templates on it, and you just sort of enter in your info, and then you skip a section and it still says, enter name of this company here, and you put that out on your resume. Like ChatGPT won't let you do that. It'll make it look nice. The issue with ChatGPT, again, comes from if you're not checking it, and is it making up facts about you that aren't true? Are you using it to write the resume? Like if you just say, these are my jobs, these are my titles, write me a resume, it's going to make up stuff because it doesn't know you. It's going to pull from the web, which is what it does, and say, oh, you were an HR director or you were a CFO. This must be what you did for this company. And that could be the furthest thing from the truth. That's when you notice it, is when you read it and you go, wait a minute, that doesn't line up. Why would they be doing that here? I know that company. They don't have 1,000 employees. They have 20, but ChatGPT says they manage that many. Like, so the big thing is just use it to fine tune and polish what information you are putting in. And if that's all you're using it for, I really don't care. That's fine. It's just when you use it to write the entire thing.
I'm not a fan of using it to write the entire thing, just like the bullet points to help with metrics and help people get thinking about how they help the company make money, save time, improve processes. I make my clients use ChatGPT because some people, believe it or not, have not gone down that path already of using, of touching AI. They're afraid of it. I'm like, no, you have to be able to go to an interview and say, oh yeah, I've used ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's not going
or AI.
It's not going anywhere.
I don't care for the end result of a resume coming out of ChatGPT. It's very boring, black and white. And, for me, that works for an applicant tracking system, but I like a pop of color on a human resume because I think, we like color. So I have little shaded bands of blue, to break up my sections. But, to each his own.
And the pop of color, by the way, can come without being literal. It can come with your personality, and that's what ChatGPT doesn't have.
Yeah.
So that's why, if you use it and then go through and add a little bit of your own voice, add a little bit of, the way you would write something and change it if it sounds too boring, and that's, you can add color that way too. Then go, I get a sense of who this person is in the resume. Again, it's a commercial for you, so it should sound like you.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you're absolutely right. The resume doesn't get you the job. It gets you the interview. No. So, got to sparkle and shine in order to get to the next step. But let's talk about interviewing now. How can job seekers best prepare for interviews as a candidate that you're going to submit, or do you assist them in the interview process?
We absolutely assist them. One of the benefits of working with a recruiter, or at least working with a good recruiter, which we all like to think of ourselves at the Emerson Group as good recruiters, is that they're going to give you information about the people you're talking to, their personalities. They're going to give you background information about this role, if it was held by somebody else before you. What didn't they do well? What are they looking for as a change in this role? All that stuff is a benefit of working with a recruiter versus just going in cold as somebody applied online. Not that you can't do, you certainly can, but there's just a little more legwork on the candidate side if you're not working with somebody who has kind of the number one thing you can do. It's the number one bit of advice given for a reason is look up the company, know about the company, know what they do, and know what they do in a way that you can talk about it with genuine interest and passion. One of the things that my father was looking for a job, he's retired now, but he had worked for years in the title insurance industry for home ownership. And at the end of his career, he was laid off by a small boutique firm that he was working for, and he went to work for one of the big guys. And in the process, when he was looking, he was an older guy, and he was running into some of the issues that older candidates have in the market. And he said, I don't understand. I just go in and I say, I have all this wealth of experience. I don't need a manager job. They're getting me at a bargain. And I'm just saying, I just want to work for a few years before I retire. And I said, that's the worst possible thing you could say. Because take away from the fact that every employer thinks they're going to have somebody for at least 10 years. So we mentioned retirement in the interview process. They're already spooked. But they want to know why you want to work for them, not that you want to work for a paycheck. They assume you want the paycheck. So if you look up the company, find one thing that interests you, whether it's something they did in their news articles, whether it's a way they handle a certain process, whether it's somebody that's on their board, whatever it might be, find one thing that you genuinely are interested in and passionate about and talk about that. I want this job because I'm good at this job, but I want to work for you in this job because you do this, and I think that's really cool.
So I am honored to have a couple colleagues here on this call. Sue Griffey, she's in Connecticut, and I actually saw her in New York City and Detroit this past last year within like a 2-month period. It's kind of crazy. I'm also very honored to have the Kevin D. Turner from the Dallas area on this call. Kevin, you absolutely positively must follow him because he puts out all of the latest and greatest LinkedIn updates that people find in the wild, and report to him, and then he'll put these articles out. It's just fantastic. So if you want to keep up with what's going on in LinkedIn, Kevin is the man to follow, and he has a fabulous YouTube channel also.
Nice.
I also have Bill Fell. I don't know if you're still on or not, but Bill Fell is a life sciences recruiter. And if he's available, maybe he can come in February or at a future date and be my recruiter on call guest. I also have a couple clients on here. So thank you for coming in and listening in. I know there's lots of questions, but I'm going to keep asking Greg questions. And if you'd like to come up at the end, the wonderful Meryl Cass is going to be putting in the link in the chat at the appropriate time. And then we can have, I think, up to 6 people join us. So if you get your question answered, maybe you pop off stage and then we get some other people up in stage at the very end. And we have some new people here too that Meryl invited. So welcome, new people. All right. So are there some common interview questions that candidates should be ready to answer?
I mean, there's your standard ones. I just saw over in the comments, tell me about this time that you did this and what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Like those are always going to be around there. What I'm seeing, it's an interesting trend, and I don't know if it's exclusive to our clients or if everybody's asking this, but I've noticed that when we have a candidate who doesn't get the position or doesn't get moved forward in the process, one of the common things I've seen for the last 18 months or so is the employer saying they didn't give enough details. They gave a surface level answer. And it's interesting because I've talked to candidates about that, and they feel they did. They said, I don't understand what they're looking for. I said this, I gave us an example. So the one thing I would say is when you get into questions about specifics of your role, you're a project manager, how did you lead this particular project? If you are a purchasing coordinator and you've dealt with a certain vendor or you've done negotiations, how did you do that? Typically my advice for an interview is not to go off on long tangents, because that's something that can also turn people off, is to stay focused. But in that case, where they're asking for a specific piece of your role and how you accomplished something that you said you accomplished, it's almost like they've been burned and they're really looking for proof that you know what you're saying and you're not just saying it because you know it's what they want to hear. If you're going to say, I did this, be ready to give pretty detailed examples of how.
Do you like the STAR story?
The STAR story?
Yeah. Situation, task, action, result.
Okay.
And get that metric in there.
Yes. And I mean, obviously not everything can be metric, right? I mean, that's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
I run into a lot with
qualitative.
HR. It's tough, but there are certain things that you can say that you accomplished that aren't always have a number attached to it. Think about the best way that you can articulate that where it doesn't sound like you're just sort of giving an overview.
Also want to give a shout out to Linda Brubaker. She's out of the Chicagoland area, and she is part of the Thought Leadership Branding Club. So we hang out in a lot of meetings together. We see each other very frequently. And Bill has just confirmed that he is going to be the recruiter on Call with Jobs on February 19th. So
all right.
Friends in the life sciences field, you will definitely enjoy hearing Bill's insights to these questions. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about skills and qualifications. So what are the most sought after skills and qualifications for candidates right now?
The big thing, everybody kind of wants familiarity with the Microsoft Office suite. That's not really going anywhere. You got to know Excel at least enough to be able to kind of create a table. You don't have to go super detailed with it. You got to know how to write documents in Word, all the kind of the basic stuff. That's across the board. AI is, like I said, is only going to continue to rise. We see it stronger in some of our clients and less so in others, but that's something that skill is only going to increase. The big skill is really the ability to adapt and to multitask, and that's
talking soft skills now.
Yeah, I understand it's not necessarily a hard skill, but maybe we see it more because, again, our clients tend to be more smaller to mid-size. So you tend to wear multiple hats. But even in some larger organizations, not the big, gigantic global ones where everybody can kind of be siloed, but organizations where you might need to adapt to a changing market or to a changing technology or to just the changing headwinds for whatever it is that your company does, the ability to pivot and not be stuck in, well, we've never done it that way, or I've never done it that way, I don't know how to do that. That's kind of the big thing that most of our clients and a lot of companies are looking for, is someone who's flexible and adaptable.
Yeah. And I think another one is resilient.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Being able to handle those headwinds and to handle those changes and not run for the hills,
So are your clients asking for candidates that have AI?
Not specifically. And like I said, I think that's more a function of the types of organizations we work with, where they're not quite large enough where it's integrated to the point that they need people that know how to utilize it. I think we will get there. I think it's still new enough that the smaller mid-sized companies we deal with are utilizing it sort of the way that we are, and that it's a part of their day, but it's not something that has been fully integrated into how they do business. Give it a year though, and I'm sure they will. Yeah.
Yeah. The World Economic Forum put out that 170 million jobs are going to be created over the next decade.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's quotes out there like AI is no longer a nice to have, but a must have.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I make my clients touch AI.
Oh, yeah.
In the process of preparing their career documents. But it's always human oversight, because otherwise you sound like you're the same old, and a fish of sea, same old,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you need to definitely, customize it to your personality and whatnot. But I really, I wish I had more time to take, other AI courses. I've taken a few that I've paid for and a whole bunch that are free. And I keep learning something new every day. It's just like, it's crazy. I don't even know how people are keeping up on all this stuff.
And the cool thing with it, I mean, is to do the basics of ChatGPT, you really don't even need a class. You need a free account. Go in and just play with it. It really can do a lot of cool things. And then you learn, what is it good at? What is it not good at? How do I use it? You're not afraid of it anymore. And that's kind of what most businesses are using it for. They're not getting into the super high-end utilization of it yet. Maybe get down the road. But right now, just knowing how to go in there and write effective prompts is kind of what they're looking for.
So Linda Brubaker put in not just star, but start. She put that comment in, and how it transfers to their jobs. And yeah, I love that. I always suggest to clients that, or anybody, that, you should probably have like 7 to 10 star stories prepared, like well prepared, because if you're asked behavioral interview questions, one might be about communication, one might be about conflict interest, one might be about problem solving. Could you use the same star story and spin it for all those 3 scenarios? Yeah, you could. So if you've got 7, like, well practiced and rehearsed in your brain, you can just take it and spin it, and then you have to figure out how you're going to make it, transfer to that particular company's situation. So,
and the nice thing about a lot of companies doing virtual interviews, it's almost like an open book test. If you can't remember the exact numbers and the exact dates of things, you can have a cheat sheet right in front of you, and they're not going to, it's not going to be a ding against you. Have that down, have it there to be referenced if you need it.
So speaking of cheat sheet, I got a great little tip. All right. So if you're doing a virtual interview, let's say this is a napkin, but let's say this was an index card.
Okay.
If you cut a hole out in the middle and then you put it around your camera, you can have your little cheat sheet of bullet points in your black Sharpie pen and still be looking at the camera, right?
It's very MacGyver of you. I like that.
Oh, yes. I learned that tip a while ago. I'm like, I'm happy to share that and pass it on. And then if you go to an interview in person, you always want to bring, one of those fold out portfolios where you have the lined paper on the right, and then there's that little triangular pocket on the left. So, ask permission. Hey, may I take some notes, during the meeting? And, it shows that you're interested, you want to record things. But if you have a couple little bullet points in that piece of paper on the left or something like that, then, if you need a little mnemonic device to remember your little star stories, it's right there. So, got to be prepared. Hey, I'm a former Girl Scout, right? Got to be prepared.
That's right.
All right. So, again, in case anybody jumped in late, this particular session is co-promoted by the Thought Leadership Branding Club. And this month, I mark 5 years in that club. I just find it fantastic. The people are awesome. Bobby Umar is the founder, and I work, very closely with Melanie Mitchell Wexler. She and I do a LinkedIn clinic every month for the club, and so yeah, it's a really good place to be. It helps support me as an entrepreneur. But the people in the club are lots of career coaches, and they do a lot of great workshops on Clubhouse, on Zoom, etc., and even on LinkedIn Live, for people who are job seekers. So go and listen to my colleagues. They've all got some great stuff to share. It's also co-promoted by Great Careers Network, which is the 501c3 nonprofit that I run. And we have 18 to 25 events a month. So jump in and join us. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, right underneath the headline, you'll see more gobsmacking resources. So if you click on that, that's my link of links, and you'll find the nonprofit stuff there and speaking and writing and my Substack and my LinkedIn newsletter and all that good stuff. So, oh, Bill Fell, old Eagle Scout. Woohoo! There you go. Okay, so what kind of jobs are you currently trying to fill? Where are they located? And do you have any remote jobs? So I'm going to let you just like spout off for a while here while you share all your stuff.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the thing, we are noticing our clients, vast majority, about 75% of them have settled on some type of a hybrid schedule. Now, that could mean 3 days in, 2 days out, 4 days in, 1 day out. It could mean you're in the office 5 days per week with the flexibility to work remote as needed. But we're not seeing really anybody that is working on fully remote jobs. We have a select handful of clients where the job is fully remote. Most companies, though, are back to the office in some form. And again, I think that's also a function of the type of organizations we work with. If you work with, these national Fortune, 500, Fortune 100 companies that are global, you're going to find a lot more remote positions. We just don't swim in that pond. That's all. But as far as the types of roles, again, we're not industry specific. We are not type of role specific. We work with those mission-driven companies to do kind of whatever we feel comfortable doing. The only things we won't do is we don't do clinical healthcare. We work with a lot of healthcare organizations, but not on the clinical side. And we won't do sort of floor level light industrial. Again, we have a lot of manufacturing clients, distribution clients, but we're more higher level. We're office support, we're management, leadership, that kind of thing. As far as what we have, you can go to our website, emersongroupinc.com. And we have all of our open positions listed there. If you also follow us on LinkedIn, we post something every single day for different roles we're highlighting. Like any professional search firm, we have more than a few positions that are confidential for one reason or another. We can't post them publicly, so it's always good just to reach out and put your resume in front of us. If you're interested. You can just apply.
Job market.
There is a hidden job market. Yeah, I mean, that's still a thing, and that's another reason to work with recruiters is sometimes there's jobs out there you just don't know about. As far as me personally, again, we have a team of recruiters here that work on the Jersey side, and then we have 2 other recruiters who work with the Job Exchange, which is another smaller boutique firm that we acquired a couple years ago to sort of expand our reach outside of the Philadelphia area. They have everything that they're working on, but me personally, I do have a staff accountant role. And along with a payroll/benefits specialist for a client rate in Marlton. I'm working on a couple engineering positions for a company in Camden, along with a plant manager. We have an inside sales position for a manufacturer down in Vineland that I'm working on. And then we have a supervisor of contracts administration for another manufacturer in the building supplies industry that's right in Cherry Hill. And that's just a small kind of sampling of what us as a company, those are the ones I'm focused on now.
Engineer, is that like mechanical, electrical, IT, like what kind of engineer?
Mechanical and electrical for one of them. That one's over actually in Philly.
Is it open to entry level?
No. So those 3 ones, they're all looking for somebody that has at least a few years out of college.
I have a recent Bucknell graduate who's a mechanical engineer with a little robotics, and he's looking for somebody to take a chance on him for his first role.
So here's what I always say, right? I talk to way more candidates throughout the year than I will ever be able to place, simply because the numbers are what they are.
Yep.
Like I'm going to talk to 1,000 candidates this year, and I would love to fill 1,000 jobs, but that's just not the reality of the business. So way more people that I talk to are just not going to be a fit because I don't have something for them. The timing doesn't work out, whatever it might be. But I'm always happy to talk to them and to give them needs, a little bit of tinkering, to let them know what the job market looks like, and just to get them in my network and a part of my database so that 6 months, 6 years down the road, if I have something and they're there and I remember the conversation, that I've placed many people that I spoke to for the first time years before I ever found them a role. And that's just how it works.
So let's talk about database for a minute. Okay. I know what Bill Fell's answer is to this question because he gave me an earful when I saw him at a networking event in the past couple months. Do you like, or does your database require a zip code at the top of the resume along with the city and state or not?
Does it require it? No. Do I like it? Yes. And that's
Okay.
mainly because, again, we are our geographic footprint is Jersey, PA, Delaware, right? We do not, staff nationally on a large level. We have on occasion gone outside of that footprint for clients that have locations outside of that tri-state area. But for the most part, that's where our client base is. That's where we've operated for 5 decades. So I like the zip code because since most of our clients also require at least some type of in-office presence, I want to know how close are they to this location.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of people don't like putting the street address on there anymore. That's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Zip
You
code,
don't want to put a street address in because,
right,
anybody could look you up on Zillow.com and
right.
find out what kind of hood you live in.
But yeah, city, state, zip code, just to give
right.
me an idea of where you're located in relation to this particular client that I might be calling you about helps. And I try to keep everybody within 45-minute commute time. Half hour is the sweet spot. I'll go up to 45 if I think it's great. You go above 45 minutes and you run into traffic, you run into weather, and you run into somebody that might say, yeah, I'll drive an hour for work. And then 6 months in, they're talking to another recruiter going, I can't drive an hour for work anymore. So that's why we like it. But again, you don't have to have it to get entered into our database. I'll just probably ask you for it if I talk to you.
Well, Bill just said zip code yes in big caps. I had a recent recruiter who likes to recruit veterans and MILF spouses, and she said, "Nah, I don't need that." But speaking of veterans and MILF spouses, Lynne Tant is on the call here also today. Thanks for chiming in, and she specializes in helping veterans and military spouses.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome colleague. All right. I know a lot of remote jobs just, they are just not as plentiful as they used to be. People want to see the whites of your eyes, I do believe. But I do know the importance of, being a recruiter. My daughter graduated from the Ohio State University.
Nice.
And she went straight into recruiting, and she's still with the firm, but she's in more of a leadership position now. So she hit the ground running, and she placed an awful lot of people, and helped them find jobs. So it's a valuable, and rewarding job. And if somebody was going to build relationships with recruiters, okay, how many recruiters do you think that they should reach out to? Because if you are working hard, placing somebody that you think is hot stuff, right? You don't want them. You don't want too much competition with, other people recruiting. So how many recruiters should people kind of reach out to and build relationships with, in your opinion?
I don't think it matters the number. I think that's a personal preference. I think it matters the type of recruiter you're working with. You should only work with recruiters that seem genuinely interested in helping you find the kind of roles that you want to find. Because one of the knocks on recruiters, and it's earned, I mean, there's a lot of people in this industry that give us a bad name, and we're aware of that. It's sort of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it makes candidates and some businesses more reluctant to deal with us, and we have to prove ourselves even harder. But it also makes us look even better when we do what we say we're going to do, because that does stand out sometimes. So you should be looking for recruiters that actually appear to have taken the time to get to know who you are before they contacted you. If it looks like a spam recruiter email, you probably are okay not answering that unless the job is something that's just ideal.
Oh, do you want to meet on WhatsApp?
Yeah, exactly.
Red flag.
Yeah. Like every email I send to a candidate is personalized. I make sure that I tell them why I'm contacting them, what the role is, and why I like them for that role. Not just, I have this role, if you're interested, get back to me. Those types of recruiters are going to, we all work for our client companies. Those are the ones who pay us for these searches. Right. But it doesn't work if we just throw them people that don't match. Eventually, we just become a resume shotgun, and that's not what they're hiring us for. They can post an ad on Indeed to get 1,000 resumes that don't fit. So we want to build a relationship by knowing who the candidate is and taking an interest in what you want and being honest. And I will tell many of my candidates, I don't know when or if I will ever have a job that is right for you. It all depends on things that are out of my control. But I can promise you, I'm not going to call you for something that you don't want just so I can make my call number that day. And that type of attitude, if you work with one recruiter who does that, or you work with 10 recruiters who do that, I think that's the key. And then it's just how many of those relationships do you want to personally manage?
Yeah, I hear you. So we have a bunch of people, well, not a bunch, a few people that are in the chat, and it just says LinkedIn user. So we don't see their name because they have to change their LinkedIn settings in the back end under settings and privacy, under the little round mini me. So some people said, hey, I'd like to send you my resume or contact me or whatever. So I think it should be, the onus should be put on the listener to reach out and contact you about something that you said. You're not going to go chase them, right? So what is the best way for them to reach you? You want them to email or get in your database, submitting a resume on your, on your website, or how does that work?
The best starting point is to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm readily available. It's up in front of me all day. I don't always respond immediately, but I'll respond within 24 hours. And if I don't, you have my permission to bug me and send me another email and say, or another LinkedIn message and say, hey, Greg, did you get this? Because a lot of times, someone will reach out and, well, I'd love to help them. I know I'm just not the right recruiter. Like I do see a LinkedIn user saying she's looking for a position, or he's looking for a position in Northern Virginia. Would love to help you, but it's not me. I wouldn't be of any value to you. But if you just want to have a conversation and you're within that tri-state area, please feel free to reach out. And then what we'll do is I'll take it from there and I'll ask for a resume. And if it looks like something that we can handle and it's positions that we, have done in the past, and again, we would be of value to you, which is the key, then we'll set up an interview for us to talk. But LinkedIn is your best bet to reach out to me first.
All right. Now, I have not seen any messages from Merrill Cass. I don't think so. I don't know. Sometimes he just doesn't show up in the chat. But Merrill, now would be a great time to put the link to the Restream in. Maybe I can do that also. I will work on that while I have Greg answer another question. So if you have submitted a candidate for a position, what tips can you offer job seekers for follow-up with you after an interview?
Oh, well, we always ask the candidate to either text me or email me after the interview is over, and just a quick, how did it go? And then from there, we'll schedule a time to do a full debrief. And we do that with the client as well, and we do it for every step of the interview process. The whole point is make sure that nothing is missed. There's been more than a few times where a client gets back to me and says, oh, we loved her, but just not a fit because she said this in the interview, and it's just not, what we do or not. We didn't like the answer. And I'll go back to the candidate and they'll go, oh, no, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. And this is the information. And so you sort of smooth over those potential rough spots, and you diffuse those landmines that really there's nobody to do that if it's just the person interviewing the candidate and the employer. So we always want to have a conversation with both sides. How did it go? Was there any concerns? Was there any red flags? What did you like about it? This is the salary. Is that still something you would accept if, knowing now what you know about the role? We have that conversation after every step of the process. So yeah, I mean, it's as simple as text me or email me when you're done, and then we'll set up a time to talk. And that's another sign of a good recruiter. If a recruiter says, just let me know how it went, and they say good and they say great, and that's it, you don't hear any more, that's not necessarily the most productive relationship that you could have with a recruiter.
So I'm going to attempt in the comments under the event to put the Restream link in. And I also sent it to Bill Fell, and I know I can see Bill's comments. So I'm wondering if Bill can, Merrill Cass, I'm seeing it on comments with a delay. All right. So Bill, if you could copy and paste what I just sent you in the LinkedIn chat, then maybe we'll see that restream link in case anybody else wants to come up and chat and ask Greg questions. While we're waiting for people to come up, is there anything else that I've not asked that you'd like to share?
Just sort of a little bit of cautious optimism on the job market. That's one of the things that I try to pass along to anybody I talk to, because I talk to a lot of people that are frustrated, and it's a frustrating time. It's a weird job market, stagnant, frozen, low hire, low fire, all those words, they're all true. And I try to give people a heads up as to what we're looking at. So traditionally in our business, there's two main hiring periods and two lulls. And we are really just getting into what is traditionally the longest and busiest hiring period, which is about middle of January through Memorial Day. And
really?
That's when
Wow.
we see a lot of activity. That's when a lot of
Okay.
companies typically start their fiscal years. They have their budgets set. If they're going to grow, this is when they're going to start doing it and planning for it. Anything that was sort of opened up over the holidays and they put on the back burner is now front and center. And then there's a typical lull for the summer. Not that hiring stops, but it just, everything slows down. And then it starts up again in Labor Day, and you usually see a little mini activity period from like Labor Day through Thanksgiving. And then it again naturally slows down for the holidays just because people aren't in. And then rinse and repeat. That's sort of the way it was for the bulk of my career until 2020, which for obvious reasons, everything got thrown out of whack. We had nothing, and then we had the gold rush of the 21, 22, early part of 23, where you threw your resume out there, and a lot of times you had 10 employers offering you more money than you've ever had offered to you for a role. And it's all a pendulum. And the pendulum was really far on the candidate side for a few years post-COVID. And then it went really far back to the employer side in the last couple of years. And we saw at the end of last year some signs that was maybe starting to swing back to center. And we were cautiously optimistic that clients that were reaching out to us about growth instead of just filling open seats, adding positions instead of just refilling positions, those kind of things we look for would continue into the first quarter of 2026. And in the first couple of weeks, it seems to have done that. Now, again, that could all fizzle out tomorrow, but I'm optimistic that we might be getting back to more of a balance between employer and employees and employers. So people that are frustrated, I get it. I hear it. I've been in that situation twice in my life. There's nothing fun about it. The best I could offer you is that, in my almost 20 years of doing this, the signs I'm seeing might be that things are going to start turning around a little bit for the better in 2026. So,
yeah, it's a pretty weird world out there right now. How many people are applying for jobs like in the past year compared to prior years?
I'm sorry,
not taking into account the pandemic.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question. You froze there.
So how many people are applying to a role that you have versus, okay, we got somebody coming up. How many people are applying to a role in the past year compared to maybe 2 years ago? Like, is it 200 versus 5 or 1,200 versus 200? Or
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that I've seen much of a difference. I don't know if I could put a number on it, to be honest with you, other than to say, we still kind of see the same amount of people that, aren't really a fit for the role, but are just applying, and you sort of have to gently let them know it's not going to work. But yeah, nothing really drastic there.
So I want to welcome Michael Van Hall up to the stage. He is from the Riverside, California area. And let me tell you, this guy's got some pretty amazing tech skills, and he's built some pretty cool things in his life. So, Michael, what kind of questions do you have to ask Greg?
Well, hi, Greg. I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. I think I pushed the button a little too soon. I'm sorry if I interrupted the question answer session.
It's all right.
But, so I got a job lead with one of the guys that used to work for like 5 or 6 years ago. And there's some other guys, actually one other guy that's also working at the same company now. And the company is based in Carlsbad. Now, I live in Riverside, California, and you mentioned about distance. It's an hour and a half away for me. And what's odd is that I've actually worked at a company that was based in Carlsbad. And the way I worked it out was, well, I worked there 1 or 2 days a week, and the rest of the time worked at home. And it worked out for 5 years. I mean, it was I had success with that. So that's on my resume, and I probably could reference that if I was to get this job and I got the interview. If I could reference that. But what I wanted to know was, like, how do I manage it where I could say, like in the interview, let's say hypothetically, I go to the interview, and I'm not even sure if they haven't responded to me. It was just yesterday I applied for it, so I don't even know. But if that happened, how do you handle it where you say, oh, okay, I'm going to work at home for most of the time, but it's going to be hybrid. I'm going to drive in maybe once or twice a week, or maybe, sometimes none a week. I mean, is that kind of like what you're talking about, where it could be a hybrid type thing, where it's remote, but it's going to be hybrid? How do we handle that in the interview?
So the fact that you've done it before is huge, and I will use that if I have a candidate that, we have parts of New Jersey that are down by the shore, right? And if you live in that area, there's not a lot of industry there. So people who live there year round oftentimes are used to driving an hour or more for work, and it's not anything that's unusual to them. Whereas somebody that's in the thick of it might not want to go more than 20 minutes from their house because they've just been spoiled. So anybody that's done it before and done it for an extended period of time, like I think you said it was 5 years for your last role, that's something not only to bring up in the interview, but if you have the ability in a cover letter or in a cover email to say, I mean, you always want to sort of address any potential red flags with an employer head on if you can. And if you know that's a red flag, you could even say, listen, I know you might be concerned that I live an hour and a half away, but I did this for 5 years before. I don't mind it. I made it work then because I loved the company. And if I have the opportunity to work with you, I will make it work again. It's nothing new to me. That sort of puts them at ease. Like, okay, this isn't new territory for him. He knows how to do this. He knows how to be productive doing this. He's not going to ask me to come in later or leave earlier to beat traffic. He knows how to manage that on his end. That red flag is now put to bed, right? And the earlier you can do that organically, you don't just want to blurt it out in the interview, right? You want to make sure it comes up naturally. But the earlier you can do that, the better, because it shows also that you care, that you took some self-awareness and you go, look, I know you're probably concerned with this about me. Don't be. Here's why.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
and the good thing is that the other two employees, they also live here in Riverside, same distance, so they're working it out too.
Right. Exactly. You've got some things in your favor there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Good luck.
We had Michelle Norton coming up, and then she just popped off. But anyway, so I also want to give a little shout out to Felipe Confino. I screwed that up all the time. I'm sorry, Felipe. He's another recruiter, and he's been my guest and Recruiter on Call with Jobs, but he was on Zoom. So Felipe, maybe you will come back and do a restream with me sometime this year. Okay, so we don't have anybody else coming up at the moment. And it's almost time. I'm usually willing to stay over a little bit. But anybody else want to come up and ask Greg questions? Now's the time.
And again, please feel free to reach out to me, on LinkedIn if you just want to get in touch.
Yeah, recap the website again.
Yep. So it's Emerson Group is the firm. If you Google us, we will come up, very highly in that. EmersonGroupInc.com is our website. You can find me on LinkedIn, Greg Podolsky, spelling's down there. And definitely follow us because, again, we highlight jobs every day that we're working on. Follow the website. You'll see postings from us on all the big job boards and everything. But yeah, I'm always happy to talk to anybody. And if I can answer a question, quickly and easily, I'm always happy to do that.
All right. Well, I met Greg through Flo Ryan, who I guess she does business development for Emerson Group.
Yep.
So I was invited to be the keynote speaker in December in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, at the Tri-State HRMA. I gave a bunch of LinkedIn tips, and the Emerson Group was the sponsor of that event. And I was like, oh, well, thank you so much for sponsoring this event. I have this whole huge room of HR professionals here, and I'd like to pay it forward. How would you like to be my recruiter on call with Jobs guest. And so because Flo does business development, she passed me on to Greg. So that's how I got to meet Greg.
And thank you for having me. This was great. I love doing these kind of things.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining. And I guess if nobody else is going to come up and ask any questions, we can wrap this up. And again, go to thoughtleadershipbrandingclub.com/events and Great Careers Network, greatcareers.org/events, and come join us for, online events. And if you happen to be in the greater Philadelphia area, there's a job fair at Temple University on Monday for MLK Day, and I will have a booth there. And then another cool thing that I'm doing next week is, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm a former K-12 teacher. I have 9 Pennsylvania Department of Education certifications. And so I have decided that I am going to run a career readiness camp for teens.
Nice.
This summer. I'm going to do in-person in my office, and I'm also going to do other sessions that are online. I have to see how many people, sign up.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, I'm so used to dealing with big people, and a lot of the big people have, kids in college and high school and whatnot. And they're like, Lynn, take care of my kid, right? Kid needs a resume for a college application, or is looking for an internship, or just graduated. So I really enjoy, working with young people also. So I've done everything from age 4 to 12th grade, and everything in between. So I decided I want to do, this is more STEM academic related, I guess, than anything else. So it's going to be like, you have to be 16 to be on LinkedIn. So hopefully we'll have a group of people that are at least 16. So I did put that on the events page on greatcareers.org in case you have any teenagers that, need to kind of ramp up their resume and LinkedIn profile. As a nonprofit, we have what's a Google Classroom available to us for free. So it's, behind, being public. It's in a safe place. And I went out and got my FBI, child abuse and criminal clearance, all that stuff updated, at the end of December. I do that every few years because, I also work in libraries teaching adults, but I walk through a children's, department and SCORE and some of the libraries do require me to be, have good clearances. So I do that.
That's very cool.
I know we have other questions in the chat. This is your last chance. If you want to come up and ask them, it's really hard for me to kind of moderate the chat. And so it's best if you come up live and ask your questions. I'm going to going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for joining me today. And again, people reach out to Greg on LinkedIn. All his contact information is in the details of the event. And this event is also on our meetup. We just crossed 8,400 people on our meetup.
Nice.
And so all that stack of information, including Greg's book, I put the Amazon link for the book.
Thank you.
In there too. So I hope you make many sales from that.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks everyone. Have a great day. I'm going to end the stream now. And if you want to watch it or have somebody else watch it, it'll be live on LinkedIn on my profile under events. And it's also on the Great Careers PHL YouTube channel.